private company, but not ECHR compliance.
My Lords, I really genuinely appreciate the debate, and I thought, in fact, that the noble Lord Clement Jones made a very important point, which is in going through the weeds of this bill, and some people have been involved in it for many years and looking at the detail, I do appreciate that it can be easy to forget the free speech point, and I think it's important that it's got raised, but I also think it needs to constantly be raised. That's the point. It is, as Lord Allen of Hallam admitted, a speech restricting bill, and then we're working out the balance. I did want to apologise to the noble Lord Hope of Craighead for not acknowledging that he has constantly emphasised this distinction between free speech and free expression. He and I won't agree on this, but we just haven't got time for this argument now, rather than I just don't understand. But I do think he has been diligent in his persistence in trying to at least raise the issues, and I think that's been important. I wanted to say, I was a bit surprised by the Minister's response, because I wanted to say for the first time ever since I've been here that there's been some enthusiasm across the House for one of my amendments, which, I mean, this was unprecedented, for the Amendment 162 on the public order offences. You know, I thought that the noble Lord might have noted that, because he's noted it every other time there's been across the House consensus. So I do think he ought to look again at Amendment 162, and just to indicate the muddle one gets in terms of public order offences and equality and illegality. The Cheshire Police Force, which is where I'm from, have just put out a film online today saying that misgendering is a crime. That's the police have said that. Anyway, it isn't a crime. And the point about these things is, the difficulty we're concerned about is asking people to remove material, to censor material based on illegality or based on public order offences that in fact they shouldn't be removing. That's what my concern is, censorship. I absolutely agree with Lord Allen of Hallam, to kind of conclude, that of course free speech does not mean saying whatever you want, wherever you want. I mean, that's not free speech, and I'm a free speech absolutist. But there are ways of doing things. So even subreddits think that they're actually, and people know what they are, think that they're policing each other's speech. There are norms that are set in place. And that's fine with me, that multitude. My concern is that a state body like Ofcom is it's going to set norms of what is acceptable free speech that are lower than free speech laws, by demanding, on pain of breach of law and fines and so on, that these private companies have to impose their own terms of service, which can actually then set a norm, which would lead them to be risk averse, and set a norm for levels of speech that are very dangerous. And if you, for example, go into work, and you can't just say anything at work, but there are people who, when they say something at work, like Maya Forstater did recently, and was disciplined and lost her job, she's just won over £100,000 because she was expressing her views, her opinions, and the Equality Act ran to her aid, and she has now won and been shown to be right. You can't do that if your words have disappeared and are censored. And so, anyway, I could talk about this for a long time, as you know. I hope that at least as the bill progresses, even when it becomes an act, that the government could just stamp on its head, free speech, don't forget free speech, but before then come back as we end this process with some concessions to some of the amendments that have been raised here today. That would be more than just words. Yes. I withdraw my amendment.
The question is that Amendment 77 be withdrawn. As many as are of that opinion will say content. Sorry, I'm sorry, it's not moved. Amendments 78 to 81 not moved.